Howdy, shipmates, it's Captain Dan here. Welcome to Storytime with Captain Dan. A time to tell tales old and new for young and old. A time to lift our spirits during this time when they need lifting from time to time. Mine do anyway. I'm sure yours do too. Please keep sending in your requests, and I'm looking for new stories to tell too, as I'm starting to run a little thin on my little old ship, so if you can send any in, they'll be greatly appreciated. But what's today's tale, do you think? Let's have a look. Better put my old spy glasses on. That's better. Ooh, what's this? It's a Blackberry Farm tale. Lucy Mouse Keeps a Secret by Jane Pilgrim. An interesting tale, I think. Shall we see what it's about? And it's illustrated by F. Stocks May. What a great name. So Lucy Mouse Keeps a Secret. Lucy Mouse had always lived at Blackberry Farm. She was born in a corner of the old stable and lived there with her mother and father and 2 little sisters and 3 little brothers. She was a quiet, kind, brown mouse, and she was always ready to help anybody. There she is, Lucy Mouse. Mrs. Nibble, who lived with her family in a little house in the bank of the field below Blackberry Farm, was a great friend of Lucy Mouse, and Lucy often went down to see her and help her with her 3 bunnies, Rosie, Posy and Christopher. How lovely. One day when Lucy was crossing the yard on her way to see Mrs. Nibble, she saw a strange brown mouse sitting on a stone by the gate. She smiled politely at her, or he smiled politely at her as she went past. Oh, isn't he sweet? The lovely little mouse. The next day he was there again, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Each time he just smiled at Lucy. But on the 9th day, he jumped off his stone and walked beside her into the field. How lovely, eh? Now Joe Robin had been watching all this, and he flew over to see Mrs. Nibble. "Who is the strange brown mouse whom Lucy is meeting?" he asked her. "I haven't seen him at Blackberry Farm before," but Mrs. Nibble did not know. "I will ask Lucy next time she comes to see me," she said. There he is, the Robin and Mrs. Nibble. But Lucy did not go to see Mrs. Nibble again because she was too busy walking in the field with the strange brown mouse. Oh, could it be romance? One day, Emily the goat found Lucy busy in a corner of her stable. She had a brush and a dustpan and was sweeping it very clean. "Why are you doing that, Lucy?" Emily asked. But Lucy just smiled and went on sweeping. Then Walter Duck met her carrying some corn out of the barn. Where are you going, and what are you going to do with that, Lucy?" he asked. But Lucy just smiled and hurried over to Emily's stable. And then Lucy's mother and father began to wonder what Lucy was doing. "She used to be such a help to me," said old Mrs. Mouse, "but now she's too busy to think about us, and when I ask her what she's doing, she just smiles." "I think she must have a secret," said old Mr. Mouse. Maybe she has. And all Blackberry Farm began to talk about Lucy Mouse's secret. But Lucy Mouse just went on smiling and being busy and going for walks with the strange brown mouse. Then one sunny morning there was a knock on Mrs. Nibble's door. And when she opened it, she saw Lucy and the strange brown mouse standing together on her doorstep. I want you to meet my friend Marcus, Lucy said. He lives down the lane at Oak Apple Cottage, and I hope he will soon live at Blackberry Farm. Mrs. Nibble shook hands with Marcus and said she was very glad to meet him. The next day, Lucy took Marcus to see her family. Marcus had a long talk with old Mr. Mouse, and all Lucy's brothers and sisters peeped out from under the straw in the stable until old Mrs. Mouse shooed them away. By now, all the animals at the farm were very excited. Tell us your secret, Lucy, they cried as she walked towards the field with the strange brown mouse. But she just smiled and carried on walking. But Marcus, the strange brown mouse, stopped. I will tell you Lucy's secret, he said. I will tell you her secret. She is going to marry me, and we're going to live in the corner of Emily's stable. I'm a very proud and happy mouse. Then all the animals shouted for joy because they loved Lucy Mouse and were glad to see her so happy. 3 cheers for Lucy and Marcus, called Joe Robin, and may they live happily ever after at Blackberry Farm. And Lucy and Marcus smiled and waved, and everyone was happy for them. So that's the end of today's story of Lucy Mouse Keeps a Secret, a Blackberry Farm tale by Jane Pilgrim. But that's enough for Captain Dan for today. Until we meet again tomorrow, perhaps. I'm going to wish you all a good night in my usual manner. You may join in if you wish. The choice is yours. Here we go. Good night, good night. Oh, sweet repose. Don't lie on your belly, because you might just squash your nose. Good night.